So philosophy, all right, as a goalie with the shooter shooting faster and more accurate these days, efficiency is the biggest component. All right, in our ready position, we want to be as efficient as possible, taking up as much space in our ready position without even moving, so we're already maximizing taking up the cage. All right, saver versus stopper. All right, there's a big difference between making a stop and making a save. Making a save means you end the possession, you're in charge, you're going to play offense the other way. A stop is giving up rebounds, knocking things to the ground, not being able to control it, so you're giving the offense second chances. All right, we want to be one and done as much as possible. Fluid and controlled movement. So when we step, we don't want to be floppers, we don't want to be unbalanced, we want to make sure that when they have a clean movement to the ball, they are balanced when they start and they're balanced when they end. In case they do have to give up a rebound or react again, they are full in control. And then lastly, the big thing that is going to separate, I think, good goalies from great goalies is being a quarterback on the field. The communication, seeing develop, being able to know what's going on, talk to your defense, and then being the outlet, starting to be the first guy in transition, being the first person on offense. So ready position, I'm just going to start off and say there's more than one correct way to play. All right, there's different body types, there's different styles. I'm going to talk about mine, which I think is useful. I'm a smaller goalie as such instead of others like Scott Rogers that are bigger, take up more area. All right, I try to move and use my quickness inside the 6x6 as much as possible. But the main things that stay the same are efficiency and comfortability. All right, you're going to play your best when you're comfortable. So, ready position, it all comes down to being athletic, right? Goalies are said that they're not athletic, but in the crease, protecting the 6x6, all right, you are going to be athletic. So we want to start with building up from our feet, and by the feet, we want to be on the balls of our toes. Balls of our feet, not our toes. So it's a big, big difference with people saying, be on your toes, be ready to go. Being on your toes means your weight and all your momentum is falling forward, and you have nothing to stop it. Players nowadays hitch and drag or wind up. You're going to be falling off balance before they even shoot, and your momentum is going to be taking you forward rather than the direction where the shot goes, so that's a wasted movement. So when we get set, I always say be on the balls of your feet so you can explode. All right, that's where you push off of to explode, just like a linebacker would. If you're hitting the hole or a running back ready to take the handoff, you want to be on the balls of your feet to explode through that shot to be as quick as possible. If someone does hitch or you're falling forward, your toes act as brakes, can grip into the turf, and then you get bounced back up without losing all your momentum going forward. So it's important to be on the balls of your feet, not your toes. I think the myth is be on your toes ready to go, which is kind of too far forward where you want to be on the balls of your feet relaxed, because it's action-reaction. The offense acts, goalie reacts. All right, so that's when we're balanced. Our feet are a little bit wider and shoulder width apart. So if you can, as a linebacker or running back, you're set athletic with your knees directly over your toes. All right, so if someone's knees are over their toes, they're off balance. If their knees don't reach their toes, then their knees are too straight, and you're not as athletic being bent down and being able to move. A little bit wider than shoulder width apart, so just that comfortable base. All right. Some guys like to go a little bit wider, and I just say whatever the goalie feels comfortable with, spreading his legs, that depth, that is what they'll play their best at. I'm not a big guy of keeping it inside the shoulders, because your first step you're going to be off balance right away. All right, because your stance is going to be too wide. All right. The biggest thing about that I want to talk about throughout this duration of in your stance stepping is your toes should always be facing the shooter. Your toes control your hips. So once your toe opens up, your whole hips open up, and you're not square to the shooter. You're not efficient to the shooter cutting off that angle. So whenever you see toes pointing elsewhere, or if the shot's coming straight ahead and it shoots off hip, if I end up like this making a save, I am not square to the shooter anymore. I want to make sure that I always end up, I always say I have a string tied from my toes to the shooter, so wherever I step, that string is pulling my toes to the shooter, so you're always square. So in your ready position, you want to have your toes pointing to the shooter, not pointing out. Always point to the shooter, because that can control your hips, and that keeps us square and as efficient as much as possible. And then lastly, having our chest up. All right, my saying for the younger guys is make sure they can read what your jersey says every time. So when your chest is up, you're taking up that area 6 by 6. The more your chest goes down, the more you open up with your body over top of your shoulder. So that is where you want to get your efficiency, taking up as much as that 6 by 6 as possible. Now when we get to how we hold our stick and in our body position, all right, obviously younger kids, it might be a little different how they hold their stick. All right, I'm a shorter guy, so as you can see, I don't even hold it by the plastic. I hold mine a little bit lower so it reaches just to the goal, to the crossbar. So when I get my stance, there's a direct line where I can balance a stick from the crossbar to my stick, so I know it's a straight line, so I'm not over top of it where I'm taking up space where I don't need. I'm efficient, taking up as much of the 6 by 6 as possible. So if you have younger kids, you're not going to have them reach all the way up top because it just will develop bad habits. But as you get older, for the older kids, have them just kind of start back in the cage, step out, and they know that that's the height that they want to hold their stick at. Going even further, how we hold our stick. So this is kind of a way that I think is different than what other people talk about or don't necessarily teach, is how you hold your stick. So I always say hold it like a pizza delivery boy, drop it forward, and you show fingertips holding the stick because your hand's behind your stick, so you're going to catch everything with your hand rather than if you show knuckles, you're punching everything and don't have a soft hand to catch it and gather it in. So I always say pizza boy, drop it down, show fingertips so your hand is behind your stick whenever you're moving. All right, with that, your hand's open, so any off-hip save, your hand's not moving. If you grab it with your fist and you're punching, showing knuckles, you get to here, your wrist is locked out. You have to open your hand to get to there. So instead of doing 2 steps to get there, you might as well just open it up, start with this to start, and then your hand's already open, moving smooth. Another way to teach that is just tell a kid, get in the cage and pretend his hand's the goalie stick. So he's here and he's got to go like this and make every save with his hand open. So when he grabs the stick, his hand's pretty much open, just grabbing the stick so it doesn't fall forward. So that way you're always catching everything and gathering it in rather than punching and attacking it to give up rebounds rather than saves. Holding your stick to your length, I always say grab my waist and come out. All right, that kind of gives you the equal distance between too wide, too close. All right, kind of going through the too close. All right, I think it gives you quicker hands for sure, but your reach is limited. So for me to reach anywhere stick side, I can only go as far as my left hand, and I can't get out to here to gather, catch, or any shots that might go wide. Too far wide, right? You're too stiff. You can't get anything off hip or off stick side. So I kind of go right in the middle because it allows you to be more flexible to move everything. And then lastly, how you hold your stick. If someone threw you a basketball or football, you're catching it with your elbows in, kind of catching it right here, and that's how I'll play as a goalie with my elbows in, elbows making a right angle or an L, facing the ground against my rib. So when I move, I'm attacking this way. We don't want the famous chicken wing with our elbow out because that first movement is that elbow's coming in and then we're moving again, which is 2 movements rather than 1. And we're talking about efficiency as much as possible. So always start with your hands in, all right, no chicken wing, and don't tell time. So telling time means if your wrist is out like this, you can see my watch, telling time, because for me to move off hip, I got to turn here and then make a save. So again, that's 2 movements rather than just 1. So start with both hands behind the stick, elbows against your body, and your ready position just like that. For me, it's easy for my height and what I know. I just come right off my helmet, my ear, and I'm out just like that. I don't want my stick overlapping my body because again, you're not as efficient taking up more of the cage. So if someone just took a shot without us making a save, without us moving or seeing the ball, we want to take up as much of that area as possible rather than overlapping or being here, overlapping my shoulder, not reaching the crossbar because we don't need that double coverage. All right. And then lastly, where to hold your stick. I always say have your bottom hand come right off your belly button because then you're right in the middle. 180 degrees is pretty much off hip, and then you're back up here, rather than playing with that arm straight, which is vertical. All right, that 180 degrees gets you to here, and then you got to go even farther to get off hip. So why make it farther for you to get here, rather than just starting here, being kind of halfway there, in the middle, making it more efficient. So that's kind of my stance. Do you guys have questions regarding the stance or how you would hold it, or?
I don't know if you've gotten to it yet, but how about your stance in relation to the plane of the goal? Are you yeah, you want to be outboard, or you just being all the way back because of...
So what I do, the more and more I've played and the higher levels, I've put myself farther back. I want to give myself more time to react, and I want to make sure I defend pipe to pipe. All right, so I want to cover this goal line as much as possible. So I play back farther to give me more time to react, to make the save, rather than be out here, force me to make a quick save, and then it opens up so much more behind me. By me stepping out, it creates negative space behind me, which I don't know what could happen or how I can't control it. But if it's in front of me, I always know that I can control it or I can see it, and gives me a chance to make a save. So I think I'll talk about this a little bit more when we talk about moving to the ball and stepping. But I always start with my heels just off goal line extended to give myself more of a chance to see the ball and react.